Before I get into today's episode about Sam Darnold, I just want to remind everybody that we have blogs up on the JKS site, so definitely be on the lookout for that. As you've noticed, we're trying to create a business here, not just have me be the only one creating content, and there's some great blogs, including one that I wrote on the site, so be sure to check those out. They're a lot of fun. And also, check out the other guys I have posting on this site on my channel because they're making some really good content. We're all having a lot of fun, so be sure to check that out. Again, the link is in the description for the site, so check that out. And anyways, back to your regularly scheduled video. I think Sam Darnold's a pretty interesting player. He's been in the league for 2 years now, and it's interesting, right? Because he definitely hasn't necessarily been lighting things up. His statistics aren't anything to write home about. He has a combined passer rating over his 2 seasons of 81.1. His passer rating did improve from year 1 to 2, from 77.6 to 84.3. Touchdown to interception ratio of 19 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. So again, nothing horrendous, but not exactly crazy either. So I think some people are kind of saying, well, listen, has he lived up to the number 3 overall pick yet? And while it's still pretty too early to tell, the guy's only 22 years old, I think one thing that has to be mentioned when evaluating Sam Darnold is just the awful situation he's been put in. I mean, this is maybe the worst situation for a quarterback. Just if you look at a poor offensive line around him, I like Robbie Anderson, but they don't have too much going on in the wide receiving grouping, and Robbie Anderson's not really a true one anyways. I do think Le'Veon Bell is better than people realize. I think if he had a better line, people would be more impressed with Le'Veon Bell. However, either way, a lack of a running game is a lack of a running game. I do think that he's in just a rough situation, and this play is a good example of that. It's going to be a cover 1 hole that he's going up against, and this is against Cincinnati. So, you would think, hey, every team can blow out Cincinnati. Why can't the Jets? And what's going to happen is that those that are routes their receivers are going to be running, and this is the 3rd down and 10. So while 3 of these routes are not going to be past the 10-yard line, 2 of them are. They're kind of in similar areas. Actually, it's a little bit tough to see, but one of the routes, this route second closest to the bottom half of the screen, is going to be a little bit further down the field when he cuts, but, I only had so much space to show you. But anyways, so basically, those are the 2 routes that Darnold has to look at. Those are the 2 routes he should consider. But after the ball is snapped, you look, and neither one of his receivers are open just yet. Now, there is a chance somebody could get open, but that's just a chance. We don't really know. Darnold would have to take a risk if he wants to fire one there, and he has to make his decision now because very quickly pressure got to him. So Darnold doing the right thing, he's going to try to get around the pressure, but it doesn't work out. He gets sacked. He pretty much had no choice on that one. It's like, how can you watch that play and blame Sam Darnold? You can't. The line didn't do much, and the receivers, I mean, they weren't open. At least they weren't immediately open, and that's what Darnold would have needed. Again, he's getting, the New York Jets are getting beat this badly by the Cincinnati Bengals. It's not even the great teams that are beating them, it's the bad teams. Like, this play is another perfect example of it. This is going to be a cover 1 linebacker blitz, and quite frankly, it seemed like every time a team blitzed the Jets, they got pressure very quickly. For Darnold, what he wants to have happen is his number 2 receivers running a curl route. This is another 3rd down and 10, so, could get open just past the 1st down marker. That's where Darnold is going to look. That route absolutely has a chance to get open on this play. However, very early on, New York's center does a poor job of picking up on this blitz, even though he knew a blitz was possible. He was looking up, but he didn't get over quick enough, which is going to allow for some pressure to happen very quickly. Darnold is in a tough situation right here. He can try to scramble and make a play, and that's pretty much what he has to do because there's pressure right in his face. And the problem with scrambling is it limits your options, If you scramble to the bottom half of the screen, that means that everything on the other side of the field is going to be covered up. Darnold is going to scramble to the bottom half of the screen, tries to make an off-balance throw, but just overthrows it. Now, there was maybe a window where Darnold could have tried to make that throw accurately, so you could totally sit here and say, hey, he missed the throw, but to me, that would just be totally blaming a guy when clearly the problem was with the offensive line on that play. This was, honestly, I'm not exaggerating, most of the plays that went wrong were not Darnold's fault whatsoever. That was a lot of what I saw. So it's tough to evaluate this guy when he's been in a pretty terrible situation. Now, one thing that does have to be mentioned is that when he played bad defenses, he was actually able to come through and play pretty well. And you might say, well, most quarterbacks play very well against a bad defense. But I actually think that it's interesting to watch him play against bad defenses, because when most guys play against bad defenses, it means that their offense has a huge advantage against the opposing team's defense. But when he's playing a bottom three defense, that usually means that the matchup is pretty even. Like on this play, he's going up against Oakland, which did have a very bad defense last year, and it's going to be a cover one linebacker blitz that Oakland is playing. And Sam Darnold, he has a receiver running that route right there, which is a great route against this type of coverage. Typically, when you watch the Jets play, this type of route doesn't get open because Darnold doesn't even have enough time to make this throw. But this is a throw that he'll be able to make relatively quickly, and definitely there should be an opening here. And so after the ball is snapped, the New York Jets actually do pick up this blitz pretty well, and now there definitely is a window where Sam Darnold can look over and make a throw right over there. And Darnold does not disappoint. He ends up making just a perfect throw, and they get the first down just like that. And you know what? When the situation is good, Darnold can really thrive. He really can. I think he's a very good player. I think he's in a terrible situation, especially for being just a 22-year-old kid. I mean, I think people forget Sam Darnold, he's younger than a good amount of the people that are going to get drafted in this upcoming draft. He is a very young guy. So I do think that, again, I don't want to make excuses for him, and I'm not, but these things do have to be mentioned. However, Darnold can make some very good throws, and this one is another example of that. It's a pretty similar example. Once again, it's going to be a cover one play. This time it's against the New York Giants, and what's going to happen is that Sam Darnold has that receiver running that route right there. So, like I said, very similar type of play. And after the ball is snapped, it works out pretty well. I mean, as you see, there is once again an opening here, and also worth mentioning, if you look at the offensive line, there definitely is some pressure. Darnold can't step up as much as he might like, but, you know, he's definitely in a good enough shape. You can't complain about this if you're a quarterback. So the fact that Sam Darnold is going to make a completion on this play isn't really anything too spectacular, but what I like about it is, look at how good of a completion it is. I mean, that's just in an absolutely perfect situation, which allowed his receiver to pick up more yards after the catch. He stepped out. That wasn't a touchdown, but it was a very big gain, and the reason why it was a big gain was for several things. I mean, you know, receiver got open, offensive line was able to hold their own, but it was mostly because Sam Darnold made a really accurate throw, and he is capable of making really good throws from time to time, and that's why I like him. So if you want my verdict, I think Sam Darnold is a good player. He's still young. We still have to give him some time to figure out just how good he is, but I think if you're going to sit here and say Sam Darnold is trash because you look at the numbers and you look at the win-loss record, well, I just think you're not paying attention. I think there's so much going on. Part of what's going on is he's in a bad situation. But at the same time, I look at someone like, take a Dwayne Haskins, for example, who has all this talent, but in a bad situation has sort of crumbled a little bit. If you look at Sam Darnold, he's in pretty much equally a bad situation, but he's still doing all right. I mean, the Jets won 7 games last year. That's nothing to sneeze at. And, you know, some people are also going to bring up the Adam Gase thing. Personally, I'm not as low on Adam Gase as everyone else is. I think he's kind of become a meme. I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. But granted, he definitely isn't a top-tier coach by any means, so it's not like he's getting bailed out in that aspect. The fact of the matter is, New York, I think that they're actually in a pretty interesting scenario. I think that if they can just improve their offensive line and maybe get Darnold one really good receiver, they could be in a situation where they could have a huge jump and maybe make the playoffs next year. That's possible. I mean, they have a good defense. They do. I trust Sam Darnold. I still think Le'Veon Bell has some good years in front of him. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm just wrong, but I kind of have optimism for Sam Darnold in the future. I think he can do very well. I don't think that he is the problem by any means, but you know what? That's just my opinion. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.